Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Autodesk Collaborate Pro Bridging Teams webinar for micrographics. We will start shortly at 10 o'clock. Please note that there is a chat window should you wish to ask any questions. Note that there is a delay between me speaking and you receiving the audio, and so therefore the communication is per text in the live chat. So you are most welcome to ask any questions that you've got during the webinar, and I will try and deal with them as best as possible. And just a reminder, we'll start shortly in about 2 minutes, and we'll just wait until then, and we'll start the webinar at 10. Just a reminder, there's 1 minute to go until 10 o'clock when we will start the webinar. For anybody that's joined, you're welcome to ask any questions in the live chat. There is a delay between the audio that I'm speaking and when it is reaching you. And just note that there is a delay. Just a reminder, there's 1 minute to go until 10 o'clock when we'll start. There we are. Well, welcome everybody. Autodesk Collaborate Pro Bridging of Teams. This is an interesting topic that I've been researching over the last week. My name is Paul. I work for a company called Micrographics. We're situated in Cape Town, South Africa, and we are an Autodesk partner. On the agenda today, we're going to discuss what is a bridge for design collaboration. You might be familiar with bridges for Autodesk docs, but they also exist for design collaboration. And for those of you that have a build license, note that there is also bridges for build, where you can bridge some build elements. We're going to look at how we can set up a bridge in design collaboration, and then we're going to look at how to create a team automation within the design collaboration. That's built around the BIM Level 2 compliancy that Autodesk Construction Cloud was designed around, and so this gives us the ability to bridge in with that, and we'll see how to share our information on a project timeliner and with packages. And then lastly, we'll just have a quick look at the bridge and align collaboration frequently asked questions. So design collaboration is different from a docs bridge. A docs bridge is basically for files. So if you'd like to copy files from your project to another project, or if you'd like to continuously update projects in another project with files that you've got, the latest versions. And then we've got the bold bridge as well. That's mostly for sheets. That's when we go on site with that. And we might have different reasons for creating bridges. One of the main ones that I can think of is Autodesk Takeoff. So for those of you that don't know, we've got one client that uses Autodesk Takeoff, or rather me, One of my clients, micrographics, might have more. I'm not the only technical representative. But with Autodesk Takeoff, you've got this ability to have your models being taken off, and for you then to map that onto your company data structure for your catalogs. And then you can see what is the quantities that you need. There's also a bit of artificial intelligence built in, especially on 2D, where you can do symbol recognition. And the problem with a normal project is that you can only have one of these standards, so one catalog standard from which you can do the takeoff. And so if you have multiple teams that are going to be using takeoff, then that might be an idea for each one of them to have their own project where they can have their own standards or their own catalogs, and then they can bridge in their work with the main project, being able to leverage takeoff each one independently. One of the main things to watch out for if you are going to be bridging is where your Amazon Web Service is hosted. So we've got 3 locations around the planet at the moment. One is Europe, there's America, and then, or United States of America, and then there is Australia. For purposes of South Africans, we have relatively strict data laws, and so we normally use the European server so that we're able to work with our government based on the country's laws. And because the European laws are stricter than South Africa's, we are covered in that respect. You cannot bridge across regional servers. So if your project is in Europe, you cannot bridge across to America, and vice versa, or for that matter to Australia. So at the beginning of a project, you must make sure that anybody and everybody that needs to bridge is on the same geographic Amazon Web Service. If necessary, somebody would have to purchase a new contract with Autodesk to establish a new hub on the relevant service, and then you can bridge. But it does present a challenge. Be aware of that at the beginning before you make plans. That said, if what we have per company is a hub stores projects, these hubs are stored on AWS servers. If both hubs of both companies are on the same AWS server, for instance Europe, then the projects can be bridged across the hubs. So at least in that sense you gain full control of your project, in that you have it on your own hub that you can do. And it leads on to the next point, which is model privacy and data protection. When you have a project, there's always one admin, one person, well, could be more than one, but at least one, that to all intents and purposes has access to anything and everything on that project. That is the project administrator. And you would want them to have an unimpeachable character. However, that's not guaranteed, and in some instances it's not sufficient for the project to proceed. And perhaps that person wouldn't like the responsibility anyway and would prefer for each company to steer clear of any issues that might arise. And so in that sense, if we bridge teams, the models are within the possession of the companies concerned, and we might share only IFC. That depends on the exchange information requirement. So whatever the exchange information requirement says, we buy into as a supply chain, and therefore we must comply. However, this methodology of using bridged teams within design collaboration does allow for the model owner to keep possession of the model regardless of what anybody else has to say about that. But that has to proceed under the agreement within the exchange information request in a proper BIM project. Another reason why it would be important, and we've been involved in some of these projects where the projects are hosted in other geographies, especially say between South Africa and Australia. They're essentially on the other side of the world. So if you are managing a project as an admin and your supply chain is worldwide, then you'd really have to be available 24/7, 365 to handle any administrative queries. So if 2 o'clock in the morning somebody wants to have a meeting with you in Australia and you're in South Africa, then you must wake up and help them. But if we have such a supply chain, then we could also create bridges, and we would then have administrators in each region, in each regional office, or if you have a large company, a multinational, you could even have multinational companies around the world, of course, and then they can handle their own admin. So you won't have to rely on somebody staying up all night to help out with projects and having a disrupted sleep pattern. Data sharing between projects is automated and selective. You'll see that in operation. And standardized workflows and folder structures of design collaboration provide efficiency and familiarity. That's also true. So we are built around, or the whole process with the collaboration bridge is built around the BIM Level 2 compliancy. We work in a work in progress folder. We share it to a shared folder from where it can be consumed by different teams. All right, so that's a lot of talking. We'd like to get on to a demonstration. All right, so to set up a bridge in design collaboration, there are some rules that we have to follow. So firstly, to set up a bridge in Teams automations, you must have a bridge between your projects first. All right, so it's not enough just to go to your team and say, please give me access to whatever. It's not going to happen that way. First, you must have a project admin. It must be a project admin inviting another project admin. And it works like this. The main project has to invite the other project. So you work from the main project to the team that's going to be bridged, or to the project of the team that's going to be bridged. All right, so first you invite somebody to come and join the project. They then say, yes, all right, this is the project that I want to share with you. And after that, the team that's within that project can be shared. Right? So the invite goes out from the project into which a team will be shared. And then the member who does the inviting must have administrator rights to grant access. Administrator, I should have put in there project administrator. Okay, you don't need to be a hub administrator, you must be a project administrator. The invited member gets a mail. They get to choose which project must be bridged from the projects they are administrators of. Again, you have to be a project administrator. And once the projects are bridged, then the team may be bridged. And the sharing of a package now shares from one project to another. And you'll see how that works. So what I've got on my screen at the moment is a parsec link to one of our computers where I've signed in with one of our training accounts. This is at the moment the project, the main project in which we are working. So this would be the main project where everybody's information is coming together. And you can see there is quite a involved folder structure, a work in progress folder. And within this work in progress folder, specifically this morning, we're going to have a look at fire control. That's under PF Fire Services. Right? So within this folder structure under work in progress, we can see that we've got 3 architects. And those 3 architects have within them a team. That's the architectural team. The typical workflow is when you share a package, as most of you would be familiar with this, as I'll just quickly refer to it. When you share a package, you would do so from your timeliner, and you would do so from your team within the timeliner. So there we can see that we've got AXFX1 is already the current team. So if you change them out there, you can see AXFX1. So there is AXFX1. If we scroll down to the end, we've got all our teams. Then we can create a new package. Once we create a new package, what happens is the files that are in our work in progress folder are copied. They are then placed within our shared folder, again under the architect. I'll just have to move this. And then from here onwards, it's copied again into whoever is consuming that package. That will be in the consuming folder of the team. So I'll deal with this little CXPS1. It's the reason why there's two of them. We can discuss a little bit later. So I'm going to see, I don't think it will allow me to move this into the civil engineering folder. Let's see. No. So first what we'll do is we'll delete that and move this. So what I did earlier is I renamed one of the projects. I wanted to see what the renaming of a project would do to this process. And what I discovered was that it doesn't understand how to rename a project if a team has already been shared. And then when I shared the team again, there were two teams. Okay, so we've just, when you do this the first time, do it correctly. If you can, don't rename the project if you can help it. Or otherwise live with the difference, or do what I've done now, delete the existing team and then put the other team in. It's just a shared folder. I've already let Autodesk know about the inconsistency, but that's what you've seen there, right? In our shared folder, you'll see at the moment that there's no PF, right? So there's no fire services here. So our PF fire services, they're not present over here under our D's in the shared. So there's no team, is what we are saying. If we have a look at our design collaboration settings and we have a look for the PF teams, we'll see that there's nothing under P. So it goes from M all the way to S. There's no P. In other words, there's no fire protection team within our folder structure. Within our team structure, there's no fire services there. All right. Now, this is what we are seeing within Parsec. That is the Micrographics Training Account 2. And Micrographics Training Account 2, we don't have names for them, but it's ATC CT2, Cape Town 2, Autodesk Training Center, Cape Town 2, right? And if we have a look at the project admin, you can see they're not hub admins. They don't have hub admin rights, but they do have project admin rights. I specifically set it up like this to show you that you just need to be a project admin, and I wanted to test it for myself as well. Then under the members, Cape Town 2 is a project administrator. So in other words, they are a project administrator, and ATC 1 is just a project member. And what we'll do now is switch out into Team Viewer. So we're going from Port Elizabeth, or from Cape Town at least, to Port Elizabeth. That's where the other big machine is. Sorry, that is Port Elizabeth. This is Cape Town, right? And in Cape Town, we've got CT1, which is signed in. That's ATC Cape Town 1. All right. So it's user number 1, user number 2. User number 1 has now a different project. It's still called FX01XX to reflect the original project, and then there's Paul Storm being the company and PF being fire services. So it's this entire project is actually meant to be just for the fire protection team or the fire services team. And we do this because we want maybe to use takeoff for quantification, and we want to use our own catalog of equipment that we manufacture, for argument's sake. And so I've set this up in the same folder structure as what the main project is. And in addition to that, on the right hand side of the screen, you'll see that I've already created the team just in preparation for this webinar, because you guys might know how to set up a team. And what you'll see there is that there is a bridge automation of the team which is set to none, right? And if you had to click on this none, it will tell you, sorry, you can't do that, because if you looked at your bridges, firstly, there's no bridged project. So if you try to bridge your team, then it would tell you, you can't do that. You first need to bridge a project, right? So there's the team automations. It'll tell you, no, you can't do that. You first need to create a bridge between the projects. And that you do with that email invite. All right, so the rule is we start with the main project, and we will invite from the bridge another project to bridge in with us. And again, try and name the project consistently. You'll see this PS01XX that I have subsequently renamed differently, but the new name doesn't show up. So try and name your projects correctly from the beginning until Autodesk has sorted that out. But anyway, so we'll bridge to a project. What happens is you need to send an email to somebody who is a project administrator, at the very least, a project administrator on the team that's going to be bridged into your project. So we'll send this to ATC CT1. So that's the person that we need at micrographics.co.za in South Africa. This is the invite that we'll send. And we'll say over here, please bridge the fire services team into the Westpark project. Just like that. And we'll send that invitation. So I do receive the emails for these ATC accounts. I'll show you what that email looks like in a moment. Right, so this has come through to my account here. You can see ATC CT2 is sending a bridge invite to FX01XX. And then what we'll do over here, just because we're working through TeamViewer, I'll just copy the hyperlink. Okay, so if I was signed into my computer with ATC, I'm actually signed in as myself here on this computer. I'm signed in as Paul. But what I'll do is, I'm just getting the emails here, so I'll copy that hyperlink. I'll go back to my TeamViewer link, and I will paste and go to this item over here. So any project that I am admin of, I will now have the ability to bridge into that other project. So this project over here is FX01XX PSPF, this one here. That's it, and we'll bridge the project. There you can see we've now got a bridge project. If we go to the other side and we refresh, you can see pending. Let's refresh this page. There we can see that we've actually bridged in that project. Again, if you could delete this bridge, however, if you add it again, the name will be this name here. So the name at the moment is the first time that you bridge that project. That is the name of the project that it will use. You can't rename the project at the moment. Okay, so then we know that it's bridged, but there's no team yet. So if we looked at the home side of the swim lane, you can see there is a shared team, but that is civils, and that is not on the other side. I think I might have made a mistake with the naming over here as well. So luckily we can rename a team. Just to make sure that our folder structures are also updated there. Let's one has to be so careful when one sets this up. From a management perspective, there we go. All right, that's better. And this one is PS1. There we go. All right, so now the team has been renamed. That's great. And so what we'll do from this side is we'll now say, okay, these projects are bridged. This is the team that I want to bridge into the other projects. So I'll say over here, bridge team automations, yes. Well, we have a bridge. Yeah, we have a bridge. And there we go to Micrographics Cloud, FX01XX. Next. And save. The result of that in Parsec, we can see it's already updated. We now have fire services being linked into our main project. And if we look at the folder structure, it's interesting to see that there's still no team within work in progress. So the data for that team is not stored within our main project. The fire services task team over here is still empty. However, a team would have been added to shared. So there we can see the team having been shared in that folder. And we're going to move that into a new task team that we'll create there for fire services. and we will put that within the shared folder as D. And we will move this folder into fire services. And rename that as per the other team protocol. So this is where the information will come into the shared folders. So the idea would be that if we now share information from the other project, then it must come and reside in here automatically. Right? So we expect the files to end up here. This is now the team that's going to share. You'll see that in the Teams folder, I've already created a Revit file. However, I have not yet shared a package with anybody. So by default, when you have a shared project like this, it just puts this little sort of gray shared icon there. You can't even select it. It's just to show you that this is bridged, I suppose. And then what we can do is create our first package. There's our package. It's an empty file, but we'll select the model, save it. It will transmit nicely for this webinar, and we can share it. It's a very small file. Let's call this a bridged package for fire services. And it says this package will be shared with all teams in this project and all bridge project that is in team PF.ps1 has automation set up for. It says show bridge project. You can even see them there. And then we share. So we'll now expect that to come through onto the other machine. Let's just refresh. It should be there shortly. It's not too large a file there. We can see it's busy updating. It's definitely shared the file through. It's just busy processing. And then what we'll do is we will consume that package. And let's refresh. We'll go into an architectural team, which we already are in. And then we can, it's got this little backwards and forwards icon within the circle, for those of you that are familiar with sharing teams. And that is the one then that we will consume. Okay, we're consuming that package. Let's have a look at our folder structure. What would have happened here? If we do everything correctly, then we will find that the work in progress folder of the team that consumed the package, which is an architectural team, FX1, under their teams folder, they have a consumed folder. Under the consumed folder, there we can see the file that was shared with us. that verification that you see there, that's just simply if it conforms to a naming standard. So you'll still have to manage that in this project. You'll see that PS1, I think that has already been added. I'm not certain that PF has been added, so let's quickly have a look at the attributes. So with regards to the originator, we have do we have PS1? I don't see PS1. Let's search. Do we have PS1? No. Okay, so let's add a value. PS1 is Paul Storm placeholder. And then with the role, let's see if it's in there. We have fire services. Okay, that's great. So we should just double check this originator. Oh, see, this has a double action. So you first have to select that and then click on save. Okay. Good. So that should allow us then to enforce the naming standard. Both here, it has to be empty to be able to enforce it. So let's quickly delete this and then put it back. Let's enforce the naming standard. And let's put back the file that we've just deleted. And then we could say that the status is suitable for coordination. Revisions R01. And the classification over here is model. I want to see fire. No. Fire model. No. Let's just go with model then. So we've got a model. Architectural model, building services models. Yeah, there we go. We'll classify it as a building services model and restore that. Let's go out of the holding pattern and into the files, and there is our file. And on the description, we can maybe add that is the All Storm Fire Services model. Okay, so, and of course we could do the same thing with the others. It would have been better to do it in the shared folder and then through to others, but that's the basic idea. And so that is the method, and from here onwards, you know, whatever file you share, that will come through. If we do this correctly and we say that, if we have a look at the attributes again, if we look at the volume in the system, really want that folder settings, edit, really want that as AA for the architectural offices. That's the building that we're going to be doing. Then we would have to go back to the origin and we would say, all right, guys, we need you to change your file name. You have to communicate it with these guys somehow, and that is what you would do. You know, rename. And you have to add the attributes on this side as well. So managing the attributes, managing the naming standard, that is always going to be a thing. So under the, you can see that hasn't had the naming standard applied yet here. So that must still be done. So the downside is you've got extra management that you'll have to do on your folders if you want to have your naming standard applied. I think I might have deleted the naming standard from here. Yeah. So that I can quickly download from here. Okay, so it's just the finer points of the bridge, the fact that you have some extra management that you have to look after. Let's copy this. Just refresh it first. So make sure that we're getting the latest naming standard. Okay, that's good. Copy that onto our other computer. And then we can upload that naming standard onto our project. And that should already have the attributes as we'd like. But the naming standard is not going to be applied equally on one project and the other project. So there's definitely going to be this sort of duplication of management. Okay, create from import. That's done. Okay. We can go back to files and more apply naming standard. This folder. Apply. Put them back. And we should be okay. classification would be model fire services. Model building services. Okay, let's restore. All right, so there we have the file with its attributes as we'd like. On the description, we can say over there, it's the architectural office fire services model. And then we'll see if that on the next share it goes through. We'd like to rename that just to make sure again. The zone that we want is that's the volume and system over there. That is AA. That's correct. Okay, AA. So just like to rename that other file AA. So that will be the architectural offices. There we go. Save. Right, so now we can see that the naming structures have been applied correctly. And we can go ahead perhaps and on the design collaboration, refresh. Let's create a new package. We'll now attach the where is this? This is the different duplicate. Go to design collaboration. We're looking at fire services. We are adding a package, and we are adding the model for fire services. For the architect, save, share, and then that will come through to us on the other side. Let's refresh and consume from the bridged team. Well, just before we do that, let's also do the naming of the shared folder, and that's under fire services. Let's quickly get rid of these guys. Delete that. Enforce the naming standard and put the deleted items back. Okay. So you can see that the AA file now has the file description as metadata. It's managed to read that. The status and the classification and the revision, that was not brought through. And that is a surprise. So on this side, the status, revision and classification codes were enforced, but when we shared across to the other side, that was not. Alright, so there's a bit of just another note as well. It's not exactly carrying across here with the status. So again, a duplication of what happened now. That's S1. Classification. Model, building services. Revision R1. And then again, after that, it would be a consuming of AXFX1, make that the current team, and consume. Alright, and it's a small file, so we should find that it now appears under the work in progress architects teams folder under consumed, and that would be fire protection services PS1. There is AA as we expect, and the metadata, it's just the description that came through. It's very strange that the classification and the revision and the status code doesn't also go through. It maybe if you first do it the first time, it will go the second time around. We'll have to test that. But in any case, we're running a bit short of time. That's the basic idea here. So this is just how to set up the bridge. You invite from the other team, they accept, they share a team. There's a bit of management around file naming enforcement if you do that, which I do. And then you'll have control of your own models, and you'll be able to do takeoff, and you'll be able to operate in a different geographical location under your own administration or management for the administration of your project. You'll be able to spread your design teams global if you want, ensue with round the clock production if you have the skills to do that. Then at least from an administrative perspective, it becomes easy to manage. And then just as a conclusion, there may be one of many reasons you would like to bridge teams. But note, they can only be, this is the big note, they may only be bridged if the relevant ACC hubs are created in the same AWS server. In other words, all of the hubs must be in America, or all of the hubs must be in Europe, or all of the hubs must be in Australia. Those are the three options you have at the moment. If you are in South Africa, we recommend that you use the European server because their data laws are more stringent than ours and should fall within the security constraints that might be imposed on you by our own government. And from me, thank you very much for attending. I hope that you might have learned something from here. And until next time, if you have any questions, remember you can always contact us. You can like and subscribe for more, and you can click on notifications if you want to receive more content like this. So that's it from me. Have a great week further.